So, the sound should be better now, as we have a new microphone, but, as always, do tell me whether your right ear is being overly overwhelmed or whatever the hell the problem was last time. This is a 1v1 ladder match on Abhor. Was this the map that Morax made? I'm not sure. But it's like skulls everywhere which are bleeding lava, or tears of lava. What is this? Is a map that's very prone to raiding. The expansions are relatively far away. You have one to the back, which should be ecoed, and then one to the flank here. There's reclaim. There's also some reclaim at the back. I don't know why. I think there's a Wagner's underwater. Mexes at the back. You need to get a transport in order to drop the side mexes. It's actually relatively common for people to just go drop, go here, build a sonar, and then reclaim the rear mexes to be annoying. You can try to build a PD here, but a PD will not cover every entrance. And you should be looking to deny your opponent's expansion, make them as uncomfortable as possible. ACUs, movements, some people like to go in a clockwise motion because holding onto the choke points limits the amount. Basically, if you hold on to this, for instance, this is now safe, whereas if you don't, then that can be threatened. But a lot of people send their ACU mid. There's a fair amount of reclaim in mid, so it's like a few hundred. Their mechs is in mid as well, and it's just better to put pressure on your opponent, because if you control, say, one of the flanks of the mid area, you can then more easily redivert forces in order to the flanks as necessary. That's why it's advantageous to take the middle. Lab raids, they're quite strong as well, because of just the amount of distance you have to cover. You'll find that people like to deny this, since they know that NGs will go for this reclaim, or at least they tend to go for that reclaim. It's just a matter of finding engineers. Getting the Hydra relatively early is good for power, since there's so much mass to reclaim. Then this should be a priority. Then you can have engineers in the base to build faster. You can see Space4man going for the reclaim. He should be reclaiming a bunch of this as well, because this is not insignificant either. Actually, no, this is on attack move, or factory attack move. Just doesn't want to bother with the APM. That's fine. This one is going to go here. I'm not sure why he's got a movement command. There's nothing building. He's got a patrol, but he should be trying to build and secure this. This, unfortunately, will not see the mech marine that just passed by, which is why you need to build scouts earlier. If you build 3 scouts and put them at each of the choke points, then you will be able to see incoming raids. Alternatively, you can just do this, build an air scout, and just look for things, which he has now. He's a mech marine incoming, so he knows that he has to move his engineers away from the mexes. Silent, on the other hand, he has radar on most of these choke points. He also sent the mech marine, so he knew there was nothing coming this way. This tank is now superfluous and should be sent to the front. Yep, he's got the reclaim. He's going to the back. He has one engineer. Well, he has an engineer that should be assisting him, going for a bomber. Not a bad idea either. Killing expansioneers is quite critical in this map. And Spaceman is still just standing in the... He's already getting a Tech 2 megs. Oh, the greed. And he has to pause it halfway through. That is not what anybody wants. And this engineer is going to die. He has all these scouts just being here, being rather useless. He hasn't scouted his opponent. This one was fine, scouting the back. He saw the mech marine, killed it, but he didn't have one over here, and he would have spotted the other mech marine. He actually spotted it very early on, but it kind of moved out of radar range as soon as he did it, which wasn't ideal. The bomber comes in, and because it's not a Cyberman one, it's not completely and utterly terrible. And yeah, these interceptors are currently sitting over here doing nothing. So they could have been scouting, they could have spotted the bomber if there was one in the middle, but instead this bomber has free reign to kill multiple engineers where it really shouldn't have done. And they're kind of just sitting there doing nothing right now. Mech marine is still alive. Bomber finally goes down, but not before it's inflicted the damage it needs to. This T2 mech can now be unpaused if he wishes to go that way, but only 5 factories is a bit... But what do you know, Silent also is... Oh my god, this mass income and not enough power, not enough to spend it. He has engineers sitting idle in his base, and he's now overflowing mass, which is terrible. So he's trying to set up factories in mid. Nothing wrong with that. You reinforce the midpoint, stops units going through. He's trying to deny this, and he's going to be cheeky with his engineer and take the reclaim. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you have units pushed through, you might as well take it. It won't get very much, but it's already paid for itself, so that's fairly good. Space has taken the right flank. No engineer to take this though. It's not difficult to just put a PD here and start building from here if you are so determined to. ACU for him is just moving. He's not building anything, so he's purely reliant on his base. And he has got a catastrophic power failure because he is building a transport, but he hasn't got this Hydra, which would have helped, but he hasn't been building any power. He has a transport now, but no engineers to put into it. He could technically, since he has so many units, drop this and then go by the bad, but the transport's been spotted. The transport's been spotted, but Silent, with his entities, hasn't actually done anything about it, so his attention probably elsewhere. He's doing what people normally do, just sit units in this choke point until you can secure it. And he can probably tell that he shouldn't be pushing this, as Spaceman has far more units, so this is in danger of collapsing. He already has a preemptive PD here and a radar, so he knows what's coming, and this is relatively solid, but as is common, this doesn't stop units from sitting at the very edge of the range and just shooting the mexes instead. It doesn't really protect anything. If anything, I would have put it somewhere around here, because then that forces units to go around, and that gives you more time to take care of it. Because either way, if it's a determined opponent, this won't do anything. There should be artillery anyway, but we'll see. So this choke point has been deleted. That's a lot of reclaim. That should go to Spaceman. But the question is, does he have the engineers for it? Yes, he does. He wants to put a PD first to secure it. Not a bad idea. He's getting more Tech 2 mexes, going straight to T2. But he has nothing in the middle. And that is a problem. He is going down the flank with his ACU, trying to secure this, but nothing in the mid. Where's Silent's ACU? So Silent is much faster in getting the flank mexes with his engineers, and you just build a radar here. Any of these locations, they'll give you very good information on the chokes. Same on this side. This attack, I don't know what it was for, because if you're running into the production unless you're sure you can deal damage just leaving mass behind. This attack as well, Silent can't deal with it, but at the same time it's sort of what Spaceman doing. He killed the two mechs, you should be re-pulling back, because you don't want to push too far in case you leave too much reclaim. But he secured this, that's a lot of wreckage that should go his way, but Silent actually ahead in reclaim. And again, lack of radar. Engineer here, PD, radar, there's no factory here, so he can't increase his engineering capacity. All of this should be Spaceman's, but he has no engineers to do anything about it. This is still untaken. And wow, these units actually got through and might take out a Hydro. That's bad. So he's upgrading all of his factories at once to support factories to pump out the pillars. But absolute lack of intel is going to be his undoing. He has the scouts for it. All he's have to do is if you're in lieu of radar, you just fly around and you'll be able to see what's coming in. He does use his transport to drop tanks, but he should be killing the engineer first before the PD goes up. Yeah, okay, they're fine. Silent's already at Tech 2. He's not making support factories. He actually doesn't seem to have much of a bank. And he doesn't actually have the map. ACU just hasn't been doing anything. It's now moving to the flank, not the secure one. That's fine. His mid is relatively secure for him as he has factories and radar and a PD. You can see his intel is better but not great, so he should build a radar here, which he's doing. So now he has ideas of what's going on at the choke points. His transport got shot down, I believe, or else he could drop this flank as well. And I don't know what Space is doing on this side, because he has no units to reinforce. Eventually this will be run over, and he hasn't actually reclaimed... Oh, he's done some reclamation of his engineer, but no PD here, no factory here. This is going to just collapse again with no difficulty. Tech 2 power planned. This front still not taken. These are just free mexes which aren't being taken. Meanwhile, Silent, because of it, Silent has an extra 4 mexes. Actually, he's like 6 on top of his opponent purely by having these in the middle. It's just, I don't know what Space is doing. This, he could have walked with his ACU up here and taken it with PD, but he decides to go backwards instead. And now he's going to be on the back foot. Well, he sort of is, because he's vulnerable since he just transitioned to Tech 2, but he also has a far greater pillar production, which might work in his favour, as he just has superior units. But he needs to do something, because this is woefully undefended. This is also undefended, and he's just relying on his units, which can work, to be fair. But solitary engineer, transport, not dropping the other side. Silent continues to eco? No, he can't. He has to build the Tech 2 power generator, has a single TMD, no support one support factory. Well, these have stopped producing units, and they're now going to go support, which is fine. He's going to upgrade his mexes. This all needs to be reclaimed, and you have a factory here doing exactly that. This is exactly what you should be doing, and he's going to take the flanks. And he has great understanding of what's happening. This is undefended, so he can just walk over it. He hasn't scouted his opponent in a while, though, so for all he knows, there could be a Tech 2 gunship snipe coming, but that's just not Spaceman's style. When you get to a certain level of play, you understand styles of your opponent, and some people just do not do snipes, and Space is one of them. He'll just do standard groundwork and do heavy Tech 2 into hit like production of Tech 3. All of his factories will just go support, and he'll just try and win through brute force. There's nothing fancy about it. And it works, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So the map is pretty much completely in Silent's favour, although there's been heavy ecoing from Space's side, so although he has less of the map, he isn't actually so far behind eco. This army could just run over the mid, but he's just not doing anything with it. It's really strange. He's not scouting. And it's just, this can run over anything that Silent has, but nothing's happening with it. So we had engineers being dropped here in order to reclaim it, and that would have been the right move had he actually decided to run this over. We have a small band of units in the back that are actually going to kill these mechs for free, which is bad. Or will they? No, they'll actually kill the Tech 2 mechs. Will they? Will they? Oh, 3 HP. UEF buildings and how tanky they are needs nerfing. And now on this flank we see an absolutely large amount of pillars, which actually do fairly well due to their arcing cannons against PD, but this would be so much better if there were Lobos in it, but they're just not. And again, large army, sees what's here, isn't running it over, has no intel in mid, isn't very fast in taking this over again. And it's like, what's the plan? If you got gun ACU and push, this would be so much more effective. Silent has to run, because this amount of pillars can cause problems. And unfortunately, this is now being reinforced by that's just left even more reclaim for Silent to deal with. And he can just eco behind it. So it's like, pushes, doesn't secure it. This pushback doesn't secure it. And sort of is, what's the game plan? Now Silent has caught up in pillar production. So this army is still, nothing can deal with this, but it's not being used very effectively, not applying pressure, and it's just lack of scouting. This formation is terrible, and they're just being picked up one at a time. Even as simple as dropping engineers, building a radar and a PD so you have something to fall back to, but just not happening. Triad goes up, but there really shouldn't have to be. This is defending a choke point when it should be forward here in order to cover this better, and Silent has the middle so he can go divert force to either side as quickly as possible. So if he decides to go overwhelm this flank, there's nothing Spaceman can do to chase this, and well, we have to just play catch up. He's actually gone to Tech 3, which is interesting. So he's gone to Tech 3 first. He actually has been ecoing fairly hard behind it. But you can see the difference in reclaim. 20,000 reclaim to 5,000. This is 15,000. Oh my god, nearly 4 Tech 3 mexes went to Silent's coffers. He's just been way better at taking care of all the, like, wrecks. And he's going to be rewarded for it. Tech 2 radars. No Tech 2 radar in the middle though. He can happily just sit here, build on here, and see exactly what's happening in his opponent's base. Titans are out for Spaceman. And Silent getting gun. And Tech 2. And if he wanted to, he could get a shield as well. get the super tanky ACU, and oh wow, that bombers. And they blow up the Tech 2 P-Gen. Again, interceptors are kind of not doing anything, and now we have Tech 2 P-Gens at the very front, which is a massive question mark. This is going to Tech 3, really? Oh wow. So he's going to get loads of discounts on his Percival's, as that's generally what he wants to do after that. No shield in this location, which would make this slightly more tolerable. I have no idea what this base design is about. Hydras haven't been taken. No Tech 2 radar. He secured this. Still wrecks here that haven't been taken. This he could move out of his ACU to take as well if he wanted to, and that would compensate for this somewhat. And he's just running around blind at the moment. He has no idea what's here. He has no idea what's here. He has no idea what's on this flank. For all he knows, it could be an army about to approach this way, and nothing he can do about it. No power, so his Titans actually don't have shields, which is a pretty bad idea. And this, again, is like, what's the game plan? This attack doesn't do anything besides get rid of 2 mexes if he got rid of this one. And again, it's just leaving reclaim for Silent to take. He honestly doesn't care about these attacks. It's like, wow, he can't push in the middle, but at the same time, it's just Rex, more reclaim, more mass, yes please. So just PD this up to delay anything coming this way. This fight is basically a bust. And there's reclaim here, that space isn't taken, army not doing anything. It's like this, why has this not been taken yet? That single mech, that's triggering for me. Tech 3 mechs is out, these factories aren't building anything for God knows what reason. More power going up at the front. And there's more mass in the bank that's not being used. Now he's starting to make Percivals, but doesn't have the power production for it. His mechs finally went down because they don't regenerate. This engineer, is that reclaiming or is that capturing? No, nothing. They hasn't built a sonar. It's laden with a single Percival in order to join the fight. And yep, now it's attempting to bust through the front, and all this power is going to go down because why the fuck is it here? Percivals come out, but to take out the Tech 3 mechs. You won't get it, but there's Tech 3 artillery now raining down on him, and it's just, why is this here? This is the type of base design that makes me. If he had a front line like Silent has, right? If he had it here and he both his flanks secure, I wouldn't mind so much. But it's just there's no reason for it. But meanwhile, there are more Percivals here for Spaceman, so this again is a dead army. And all the reclaim is on his front, but he just doesn't want to take it. And this is why it's important. If there's anything you learned from this game, it's why it's important to A, pick your fights, but B, as TA would put it, no army is complete without the engineers to reclaim behind it. This is what, 12,000? You can take this, and you will pretty much be on evens footing again, but it's not. This is Tech 1, even though it's defended, that could easily be Tech 2. And like, just build a factory and reclaim all of this. He just doesn't want to reclaim. This has been taken when it shouldn't have been. Shouldn't be allowed. Like that. He's going to try and capture it. That's cute. Percy's have been dropped on the flank in order to clear out whatever's here. That's fine. These Percy's can be dropped around the back as well. And again, Space can't do anything about it because he's been neglecting his air force, it seems. Like, what he could do, again, is just get gun, shield, and just push through the middle. But Silent's on it with his ACU. So now this NG is now reclaiming this wreck field, and he shouldn't be allowed to. And now all of this has gone at the back. And Silent has adequate knowledge of this to see if any drops coming in, so that's not going to happen. This is completely safe. And it's just a matter, it's just his game to throw right now. Support factories, still building artillery, which is generally something you want to do, unless you're Aeon, I suppose. But even then, like, whoever's can help. It's like if you're Seraphim, you would never stop building artillery, and people as other races just tend to stop, even though they're really good. This is a better unit mix. Parashields to absorb fire, and a better formation in general. And we're just going to see what the next moves are. another Tech 3 mech's being planned. He's finally getting engineers to reclaim this mass field. And he's just going to try and push through the front. 16 Percivals, 9 Percivals, so Silent has way too many to push through. And well, now Silent has the complete map, and Space is getting firebombed. Not a position you want to be in. For some reason decides that tries will help at this stage, and they won't. Suddenly he got the reclaim field, his mass numbers have jumped to catch up, I don't know how much. Yeah, well, they were only at 9,000 a moment ago. He managed to get 15,000 into the bank, so that pays for more Percys, but so single air factory at this stage? Really? No Tech 2 radar? ACU is just going to die if it sits there any further. And Silent is just digging in, building more eco, building more units, and will pretty much... He can't lose this unless he decides to suicide his ACU. It's at a stage like this where you say, put your ACU somewhere safe, build the defences for it, just ignore it. And Silent has somehow managed to take the rear mexes as well. That's just mean. Bombers of all stripes, generally effective as well in Tech 3, as the AoE will help. More so if you're playing Cyberin, because of the way bricks work. Percy's, well, they say they're going to overkill anyway, but every bit helps. And that's game. I can say in conclusion that early on, Space had several advantages. He had the flanks. He never bothered to... He had no follow-up though. He would attack, leave Rex behind, sort of try and take map control but never consolidate it. Then if he had to pull back, he would leave all the wreckage for Silent to take. It's the same on both flanks. And then he was faster Tech 2, had a far larger Tech 2 army, but then didn't do anything with it. His intel was relatively poor as well. Scouting was pretty much non-existent. He completely ignored his front. And it's very... I've never seen this, that no one has moved up to the front or to build a new base here in order to secure this choke point. Pow was in a completely awful location, and... I don't know, there were multiple mistakes. But Silent played that relatively well, all things considered. He saw the reclaim field, held on to it, where he couldn't hold on, didn't suicide units in, and he just used his advantages that way. And that's all there is to it. Until next time.